All right. Thank you so much, Jakobi. And thank you everyone for joining us here at the Rec Innovation Lab. And I'm really excited about the workshop today because the focus of the Rec is helping diverse founders to launch high growth startups. And that means helping people from all backgrounds, all gender, race, age, every industry, and really getting them the resources they need so that they can start a company. And this topic came up when we were talking with Song, with Mike Chiv, with the folks over at Proven Recruiting, and we were talking about what's different about being a minority founder, especially when you're selling to the majority, right? How do you sell to white men, right? What do we have to do differently? And it's a fun topic. It's an interesting topic, but it's also, like Lois was saying, a difficult topic. And so I'm really glad that we're addressing this, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share. And I'm excited to hear from we have Ronald Chills with us, who's a guest speaker. And I think what I'll do now is I'll pass it over to Lois, Mike, and the Proven Recruiting team to share with us how we can sell better as minority founders to the majority.
Awesome. Everybody see my screen? Am I good? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So thank you everybody for joining the workshop. We're going to be talking about how to sell to the majority as a minority. And we have obviously, I don't know if some of you have seen me and Lewis before, but we also have a special guest that used to work at Proven as well. So we'll each go through our intro. Some of us that you have met us before, or talked to us before, seen us before through the workshops, and some of us you haven't. So we'll go through that, and then we'll each tell a little bit of our own story of kind of how we've dealt with being a minority. And I think it'd be kind of cool to share because I think each of us has a little bit of a different take on things. But I'll start off. So I grew up in a East Asian household. My parents were immigrants from Cambodia. They moved to the United States during the Khmer Rouge timeframe. So if anybody knows what that is, it was a huge genocide in Cambodia where about 2.5 million people died. And so growing up, they always told me work hard, get good grades, land a stable job. So thus I took the initiative, wanted to move out of Colorado because that's where I'm from. And then I went to school and went to school at SDSU, graduated in finance, landed a job in finance and accounting, and then realized soon after a few years that wasn't my passion. So definitely wanted to find ways to help people, but help people that wanted to get a career in finance or accounting. So now I'm a recruiter. But been doing that for 3.5 years now and struggled significantly in the beginning, but now have probably my best year ever has been this year. So been a very cool learning experience for me. But my first interaction with being a minority. So when I was a first year, out of college, I got my first job out of school. I was actually an accounting manager straight out of school. No experience managing people at the age of 22. So you can imagine what that was like. I had to manage 4 people actually that ranged in age from 55 to 63 years old, right? So the same age as my parents. And I remember when I held my first meeting, it was like a stand-up meeting, introducing myself to the whole team. They looked at me, everybody was kind of like a little bit in shock, like this young new grad from straight out of schools. One of the employees was like, "You're so young, like you're the same age as my son," right? And she couldn't believe that I was going to be your manager, right? So it was diversity from a different perspective. I think it was age diversity, right? And for me, it was kind of an eye-opening experience to manage these people. So, I think the biggest thing for me was I needed to sell them that even though I was less experienced and lacked the number of years of experience they had, I could still be a good leader for them, right? So, I took the initiative to really listen, hear them out on their concerns, meet with them regularly to really celebrate their successes and really take action on the items that they addressed, like that they had problems with or they needed help with. So you fast forward a year later, I was 23 at that time, we moved from an employee engagement happiness score from 60%, which is the worst at the hotel, to 100%. So, I think that was my way of selling me being, I think when you think of diverse, you always think about like skin color or race, but in this instance, it was definitely age, and felt like that stood out quite a bit. So really cool story. I felt like it was something that really impacted me quite a bit because I had that accomplishment, but definitely in an area that I felt as a minority. We'll go to Lewis. Maybe do a quick intro and maybe a time that you felt that you were a minority. Was she there? I think you're on mute. There you
Sorry
go.
about
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna say, I think you might be muted.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So, I think the existence of proven is as a result of some, I don't know, I don't want to call it racism. I think there was some bias at my last company. I'd been there for 8 years at the time, and I was looking, people were being considered for promotion. And at the time I was considered, I was known in the company and actually known for running the single largest office in the entire country. It was 70 odd people. There was not a single office in the entire billion-dollar company that was actually bigger at the time. But when it came time they were looking for a new regional vice president, they were considering myself as well as one other person. And instead of even asking me, they just ultimately ended up giving the job to another individual who happened to be a white male individual. And it was somebody who didn't have as much years in staffing, didn't have many years in recruiting, but they considered him to have better leadership skills, better industry knowledge, and more potential for growth. And that was one of the main catalysts that ultimately ended up me leaving the company to start Proven. And so this topic I find really interesting because it's something that I don't think that we really talk about as when we're selling. We don't really acknowledge it, and I don't know that there's a safe place for us to acknowledge it. It's a sensitive topic as well. In many ways, this is a topic that can be addressed by some of the direct or some of the basic ways that we have to sell as human beings anyway. But at the same time, I think we have to acknowledge certain things that as human beings, people are biased, people are prejudiced. I'm biased, I'm prejudiced. But understanding the things that we face, the stereotypes that we face, the issues that we face, and really being able to acknowledge them as realities is, I think, really important. And that's why this topic ultimately came up. So this is not going to be the smoothest conversation. And frankly, I would love to hear the different stories from different people, because this isn't just about race. This could be about age, could be about sex, sexual orientation. It could be about religion as well. There's so many different ways that an individual could be a minority. You could be the old guy in a room full of young people, or you could be the young guy in a room full of old people. And so there's so many different ways that I think, as we're trying to start our own companies, or just even get a job, or hire people into our companies, that there's so many different ways and things to consider. And part of that is, how real are we? What kind of conversations are we having when we're considering selling to people? So I am one of the owners of Proven Recruiting. Proven Recruiting is now 14 years old. We are having our best year ever, as Mike might have indicated earlier, as a result of Mike's work. We're about to cross the $20 million threshold for the first time ever in the history of our company. We're currently 4 locations here: San Diego, Austin, Dallas, and Los Angeles. And I'm glad to be here. So I'll pass the baton to Mr. Ronald Childs, RC, as we know him and love him.
Thank you, guys. First of all, thank you for inviting me and adding me to this presentation. So I'll kind of give you guys a very broad overview. So my name is Ronald Childs, but most folks call me RC, Ron. It really doesn't matter. So a little bit about myself. So I'm born and raised in San Diego. I'm actually specifically from the southeast part of San Diego. Spent my whole life there. And at a young age, I always knew it was more than life, just based on my environment. I knew it was more, but the issue that I had was, how do I get access, or what do I even need to do to get to that next step? So from the age of like 11, I literally always had the entrepreneur mindset from having a lemonade stand in a black neighborhood. And believe me or not, I've tried that. And when we did not have any cars, but I said, hey, we need to figure something out. So I did from lemonade stands in the black neighborhood, knowing that majority of the folks around us did not care about lemonade stands, to selling candy from door to door. Again, a bunch of black kids walking, knocking up on your door saying, hey, would you like to buy candy? So anyways, I say that because I've always had the mindset, hey, it's more than life, I want more. And then so throughout life, I used sports to kind of take me to the next level. At the age of 18, I had every Ivy League school wanted me to play football for their particular program. But again, the Ivy League, I feel like was a little intimidating, and obviously I didn't want to go that route. So I ended up going to San Diego State. I ended up dropping out San Diego State. I was just feeling like, hey, college is not for me. I feel like it's something else I could be doing. So anyways, joined recruiting in 2015 for a company called SDI Staffing when I was doing recruiting, because I had the banking background, went from being a teller all the way to assistant branch manager. So banking was kind of my life at the time, but I had a passion of always helping folks. So then I went into recruiting in 2015. And then I had a candidate that was interviewing at my company at SDI Staffing. She didn't get the job because I said, hey, you're better than this. Why don't you take another opportunity? Make a long story short, she ended up working for Proven. She reached out to me and said, hey, I really like the way you treated me through the process. You made me feel honest and you gave value. So, hey, I want to introduce you to the company. So I ended up interviewing with Proven, fell in love with the company, worked for Proven. In my time with Proven, Lewis, I would say, is one of the best leaders I've ever had, because Lou gives you a lot of perspective and real life activities to kind of self-reflect on what can you do differently or challenge you to think outside the box. So far as my introduction, so then I spent a couple of years at Proven, and then my mind said, hey, I want to try doing my own thing. I feel like Lewis gave me a lot of tools to let me try doing my own thing. So then I started my own company, Nevalon Recruit, when we focus on technical recruiting. Just started this business in July. I have a team of 3 right now and looking to add another 2 by Q1 of next year. So we're growing at a pretty rapid rate. Things are going well. As far as my introduction to really understanding how to sell to the majority, my first chance of Proven was extremely hard. I was always been the first person. So for example, I'll get to work, I literally will be the first person there and I'll be the last person leaving. And that whole year, literally, I was getting my ass kicked as far as just trying to understand the market, because I was doing tech recruiting. So number one, there's not a lot of black recruiters just in general in San Diego, or just in general, just within the US, there's not a lot of black recruiters. And then in San Diego, there's even less black recruiters. And then in tech recruiting, there's even less. So now you have to look at it from the perspective that it's just not a lot of folks out there that can relate to you. So when you're doing recruiting from the technical standpoint, you have to look at different things that folks may not look at. Like, for example, your LinkedIn picture. Number 2, how do you send a message? Is your tone relatable? Are you coming off with value? So I'm bringing this up is that whole year, it was a big learning curve. And then one moment, the following year, I remember specifically in January, that's when it clicked. And the biggest thing I've learned, what helps me and what I try to train other folks, is if you're talking to a group that you may not look like, it's 2 things you need to bring to the table. It's value and being efficient. You can always have value, but if you're not efficient with your time, they're not going to want to hear you, or you can be efficient with your time, but don't add value. So one of the things that I've really learned through improving and kind of fine tune everything is when you're talking to folks that may not look like you, at the end of the day, do your research, understand who you're talking to and what you're trying to present. Once you figure out the value, and then you need to do role playing. Believe it or not, it helps. And I do think it's very difficult, but one of the things that Lou taught me at a very young age into recruiting, let's role play. I know you studied everything, but sometimes when we want to present to a group, I think we overanalyze and we give way too much information. Now, what I've learned is if you dumb it down, but be efficient with your thing. So for example, if you're selling, you want to be their business development person for a tech firm. They can always say, hey, we can find somebody that can sell this product. But the thing is, hey, are you good at what you're doing? Can you reach a good amount of clients in a short amount of time? Because at the end of the day, folks have short attention spans. So anyways, I'll bring it back to, if you want to sell to an audience, the number one thing that I've worked on is value and being efficient. So I can have a 3-minute conversation with someone I never met before, but I can guarantee you I'll give you a full year of value. So now after that conversation said and done, They're going to remember and want to come back to me because, again, I didn't waste their time. They understood the value. They understand, hey, he can do this really well. Now they're going to come back to you to say, hey, do you have more time? And that's when you can really dive deeper. So it's kind of a very high level of where I'm coming from.
Thanks, RC. All right.
Thank
Hey, before we go on, I do want to introduce one other person who's going to help us out with this presentation. That's Michelle Pencer. She's going to be kind of a questioner. What else?
Commenter, all kinds of things. I don't know,
Yes.
framer.
Yes.
Yeah, I will try to help us move along, clarify, bring out important points as we go along.
Prompter.
Michelle. Well,
Prompter
She's the brains of our, of at least my
of your operation. Yeah, okay. Well,
She-
hello.
she-
Nice to
she
see
is my
everyone.
brain sometimes. So, you know, the other reason I wanted to bring Michelle on board was because myself and RC were all men. And I did want to make sure that there was the perspective of a woman here as well. So anyway, let's go on to the next slide.
All right. So can we cue the poll? There you go. Thank you.
Here we go. Can you guys see it?
Again.
Mhm.
So everybody, we want all of us to go ahead and answer the question. Would you rather be the face?
Who do you
would
want?
you rather be the face of your company? Okay. A, B, C, D, or E. Okay.
And prepare to give your reasoning.
Okay.
And we would love to see faces, by the way. If you're off camera, you can be on camera. We would love to see you. If you can't, that's okay. But we would
Yeah.
love to see you.
So I usually tell people to turn their cameras off just while you guys are talking, but then
Okay.
whenever they talk, to turn their cameras on. So yeah, absolutely.
I love seeing faces all the time.
Okay.
So that way, when we say something and there's a negative reaction, we're like,
Silence. Or silence. It's very intimidating to talk to no one.
Right,
Yes,
right.
that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you have, the only reason if you have issues with your download speed or you're just having connectivity issues, yeah, you can turn your cameras off. Other than that, yeah, let's turn them all on for sure.
We'd love to see who we're talking to.
Can everybody see the poll? We haven't had half the people respond yet, so
Maybe they're not picking anybody.
it must be hard to see.
I
them.
can't see the poll anymore. I can't see the poll anymore.
I still see it.
Maybe I clicked off.
It's still live. It's still going.
Okay.
Anyone having a hard time answering it, or like just drop in the chat if you are having difficulties or something?
Okay.
All right. Maybe
All
we
right.
can just share the results.
I'll end it. Yeah, we'll see what everybody's got here. All right, here are the results. We got B with the number one winner, 11 votes.
That's RC.
Yeah.
Yes, I would definitely love to hear the reasons why.
I could start. I'll start. Well, personally, I would pick B just because I'm African American and I relate. You know, it just is a comfortable. I would feel comfortable having a African American CEO for a company.
That's honest.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Somebody's hand.
Kyle has his hand raised. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard Ron speak, and I haven't heard from A, C, D, E, or F, and I liked what he said.
He may have biased
Good point.
something.
I liked what he was saying. So process of elimination. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
I do.
RC, did you say you're hiring 2 more people?
I got you, Kyle. Might have to shoot you a message when we're done.
Kyle and Jakobi.
Can't pull Jakobi. Just started. Oh, that's funny. Anybody else? Let's open a show.
I saw
Sharing.
another in the chat.
Steven said the same thing.
Yeah, totally.
He
Yeah.
likes what you're saying, Ron.
I was thinking-
I picked B as well for the same reason. Hearing RC speak, but him being from Southeast, I'm from a similar environment, so I felt like I could relate to his story.
Anyone else?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's just a great picture of you. I mean, you're very professional. It's perceptive, smiling, non-aggressive. It's real inviting. Um, I think that, I mean, by far, that's the best choice that I would want.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
If I can be
Mark.
my
That's why I
comment.
chose B as well. I just felt like it was very inviting. He looked like a good time. Also promotes diversity for your company. So for sure.
Thank you, Maria.
Marsha's holding up her hand.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I like B because he has a huge smile. He looks very confident and he remembers me. Yes. So I go with a huge smile. He
Thank
looks
you,
like
Marcia.
somebody that I can trust.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it.
Someone said they would need to hear the stories before choosing, but this is about like just initial impression, right?
Mhm.
And I think I think it is a little unfair. Well, I guess biased as well, because you did get to hear RC speak,
Yeah.
and you didn't get to hear the others. We didn't think about that when we put this together, but RC, you now have you have a lot of people that are ready to come
Yeah.
work with you.
Also, I think it's very interesting. A lot of people said RC, I mean, for a lot of reasons, because you're
Yeah.
charismatic and they listen to you and whatever, but also because they share a similar background to you, which is like the opposite situation of what we're trying to describe here. Like someone who shares
Mhm.
no background with you, why would they choose
Mhm.
you? Like I chose C because she wears glasses and she's a woman. And I'm like, oh, I wear glasses and I'm a woman. I see myself in that person. But that's exactly what we need to get past as we go through this presentation.
Okay, let's go to the next slide.
All right. So now that we got, I guess a poll that went on and some participation, any volunteers to offer up any of your specific examples of when you were a minority trying to sell to the majority?
I worked.
So go ahead, Jakobi.
Oh, I was just saying I worked in sales before. I was selling Cutco, so like knives.
Ooh, that's rough to start with. Number one,
Right,
Cutco.
right. So I would say, selling. It was interesting because I did end up selling to a lot of other minorities, but when I did sell to white people, I'm sorry if that's like a politically incorrect Caucasian. I'm sorry, but
Steven, I think, was a Cutco
They're white
sales guy
people.
too.
right. So when I did do that, it did go well, but it was I feel like I did have to tighten up a little bit. You know what I mean? I had to, what's the word? I had to act a little different. Do you get what I'm saying?
No.
You said no.
No, this is the whole point though. This is no, I'm being facetious, okay? But I think this is the whole point of this conversation, is that when is it, and we'll go through the rest of the presentation when we talk about some of this stuff. But I would love for you to get into details when you say tighten up. What does that mean, and how is that different? And because I'd love to hear from some women as well as some other people, maybe from some older folks as well. How do you sell? How do you reach people? How did you reach people? When you say tighten up, what are some of those things that you did?
I mean, I guess it's more like what's the term is code switching. So when you're selling to someone that is another minority, I feel like you can have more, like, let's say like you have more slang in the conversation and stuff, but when you're selling to the majority, it's more like proper English.
Did you feel like you had to be better, like do a better job, like be better than everybody else?
Well, I did feel like I did have to, well, like I always try to keep my best performance, but it was just more of a proper performance when I'm selling, to where like I said, like my English would have to be more proper. I was more cautious. I was just more cautious about the presentation because I didn't want to set like how do you say, like a bad example almost. Like I don't know how to describe
At
it.
the
Like,
wrong tone.
yeah, I didn't want to set the wrong tone for presenting in front of the majority. So that's just like a personal experience of mine.
So is that a bad thing? Is that wrong?
I would say it's just so common. It's so used to it. Like as an African American, I feel like people can relate to other African Americans could relate to me. But it's like it's so common. I feel like we just know how it is. But at the end of the day, I do think that it is kind of wrong. So
I actually have something to add, because so long time ago, way before I was a professor and started any companies, I worked selling cars, selling Hondas, and I was young and I was the only woman selling cars at the time. You know, it was 20 some years ago, and I know personally I would to make the sale, sometimes I would take advantage of the fact that I was a woman, and maybe I
What do you mean, Tanya?
I feel terrible admitting this. I shouldn't admit this.
Tanya, what do you
shirts.
what do you
I
mean
know
by
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have to go ask my boss. Let me go ask my boss, when I knew very well whether or not I could make the deal, and just kind of, you know, use that to my advantage maybe sometimes.
So are you saying you use the fact that you
I was viewed differently as a woman. Like maybe they thought
you
I
had less power, you had less authority.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was going to talk about the same thing, because I mean, I was relating to as a woman, because I'm like 3 kinds of white. But so the fact that I was a woman and there was like only 2 of us, and then the rest of them were all men. And I found that a lot of times when I was selling trucks, men that would come in, they didn't want to talk to me. Like they thought I didn't know my stuff.
Right.
And they felt like I wasn't qualified to sell a truck, you know? So I totally relate to that. So I had to really know my stuff, and I had to be kind of tough and know it. And they would ask questions, and I had to be able to just like fire off and have good answers, because they were like testing me and asking me really hard questions just to try to trip me up.
Yeah, Jessica, I felt the same way. Like I had to be so much better than the men. Like, I couldn't just skate by. I had to be just on it and know everything. Yeah. Jasmine has a hand up.
Yes, I was going to speak to that same experience, Jessica. So I wouldn't say that I was in sales. My background's in engineering, and I had to, at one point, manage suppliers, run engineering development tests. So I was working with older white men who were technicians and some other white men engineers, but I was the cognizant engineer on the team. So technically everyone needed to listen to me, but that was like pulling teeth. So I had a boss who, he's a man and he's a person of color, and he was extremely aggressive. He would normally be someone that would like literally yell at people day by day, but I felt like I could not exude that same amount of aggression because it would not be perceived in the right way. And when I am tough on people, I always say I'm firm but fair. I still get a different reaction than my male counterparts who are like more direct, straight shooter, aggressive. I feel like I have to intentionally kind of tone it down and wordsmith a lot of things just to keep positive relationships. And that is extremely exhausting on top of code switching too.
Right. And it's like the men are seen as assertive and confident, where women with the exact same behavior are seen as bitchy, bossy.
Anybody else? Okay.
Wait, Kyle, you have your hands up.
I actually feel that as time progresses in society, that I kind of get a reverse discrimination sometimes. And I think diversity in general, like I was in the military and I was a rescue swimmer, but as a command, we were all, it was the rescue swimmers, the pilots, and the pilots, the maintenance people, and the maintenance people had a more diverse group, like Asian, Black, white, the whole spectrum. And mostly the rescue swimmers are all white. And I think it's just the evolution of society, maybe, that it's a predominantly white thing for like rescue swimmers at that level to like United States Navy aviation rescue swimming. There are a few of different backgrounds and stuff. Like I swam, there were some that were of Hispanic, a few that were Black, but most of them were white male. And then a few women. But I felt that they were trying to diversify so hard that they would reward people of other backgrounds than mine. And I don't know if that's because they're trying to meet some sort of quota or whatever, but I also feel like when I'm doing an application for a job or some sort of other questionnaire, I'm always hesitant now to put white Caucasian because I feel like I might be at a disadvantage because companies are so aware now and they're trying to diversify so much.
They shouldn't be asking for it in the recruitment phase, not until after they actually make the decision to hire should they be asking for that information.
Right. But I just feel so. I'll make it shorter, but I just started playing flag football on an intramural team here at San Diego State, and it is so diverse. It's got a couple of white dudes, a couple of Black dudes, some Hispanic. I don't know if we have any Asian, but it's a good medley, you know. It's like a nice healthy mix. And for once, it's like, especially with what's going on in society right now, I feel like it's so much turmoil. It's like for once in my life, I'm like, we all step out on the field as one team, and it doesn't matter what they look like or what their background is. We all want to just get that ball across the line, you know? I don't know if that was good input or answer any questions, but
No,
that's my.
Thanks for sharing. I think thanks everybody for sharing. And I think that brings a point we'll talk about later is how you break through those sometimes stereotypes or sometimes these concepts of race and that divide people, right? But as we talk about this slide, obviously everybody kind of brought different examples of race, of sex, right, of background. We didn't talk about income, religion, or relationship status, but that also brings into play sometimes when it comes to being a minority group. And I think it's important for all of us to know that minority can mean that too. And I think we've touched on that a little bit.
You know, one example I wanted to bring up real fast. I'm not sure if this is the right place or not, but you know, when we first started talking about this, the actual working title was How to Sell to White People. Okay, and honestly, I was like, this is probably not going to fly. You know, my business partner probably didn't like it, but you know, the idea was Jessica loves it, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get that one through. So.
Yeah, so we ended up changing it, but you know, the more we thought about this, you know, it's what if, for example, you are a white male, young white male, running for Congress in the Deep South, and you're going to a Black church to get their vote. Okay, how would that change your perspective in terms of how you sell to the congregation? And so, you know, I think, you know, the idea of selling as a minority isn't just that we are minorities in this country. There are going to be a lot of different circumstances and situations where you may be a minority or you may be the majority right now, depending on where you live, depending on where you work, depending on where you go to school. But there might be situations where you may be the only person of your race, your creed, your religion, your skin color. What if you're in Japan and your job is to sell to the Japanese? How does that change the way you present yourself and what's okay and what isn't? So that's some of the stuff that started to go into as we were talking about this and putting this presentation together. Some of the things that we talked about. I'm not sure this is the right place to do it, but when I was born, my parents gave me two names. Lewis is one of them. I was named after a pastor that they knew, but the other, my Korean name is Jushin. Okay, it's Ju Shin Song. And if I grew up in this country as Ju Shin, okay, it's my first part of my first name is Ju. Okay, and knowing me as Ju, how would you see me differently? And is it okay that I use Louis instead of Ju Shin? Is that, have I compromised who I am as a person, as an individual, by using my anglicized name rather than my Korean given name? And this is some of the stuff that I've been thinking about. So anyway, it's some questions that we've got in here, but if you guys have comments on that or would like to hit on it, by all means, go ahead. But we can go to the next slide. All right, so the elephant in the room, okay? And we've already, frankly, just started to tackle the elephant in this room, which is, when is it okay to talk about this stuff? Do we talk about this stuff, especially when we're selling, you know, whether it's the example of being the white young congressman or potential congressman down in the deep South selling to a congregation of the Black church, okay? Or if you're RC, and RC now, the company that he runs, your board of directors is all Black, right, RC?
No, so Louis is being funny. So yeah, I can kind of jump in a little bit. So specifically in my role, it's a little unique. So I partnered up with a $20 million tech company. I've been working with this $20 million tech company for about over 2 years now. And what I did was I built the value. They got to the point that, how do I say this humbly? I'm one of the best tech recruiters you'll ever work with. That's facts. Louis can back me up on that. That's just not being confident. That's putting in the hard work and understanding how I operate. Now, because I added value, this $20 million company said, hey, well, we like what you're doing. We have an opportunity. Kind of, what do you think about this? So anyways, an opportunity came up with, hey, we want to partner up with you guys, with you specifically, to create a tech recruiting firm to focus specifically on embedded developers. Now, to go back to what Louis is saying is that now, okay, I'm looking at the world in a different perspective. So now, not just running a company, not just running employees, not just understanding the market, I also have to report to a board of directors. So yes, I get to make decisions. Majority of the time, those decisions are mine, but at the end of the day, I still have to get approval to maneuver certain routes. So one of the things,
board of directors all Black?
No, so the board of directors are white, and even deeper than that.
Any women?
No, and they're not American. So the $20 million company I partner up is called Sigma Connectivity. They're founded in Sweden. So it's a few things I kind of have to learn and juggle with. So now I'm doing the board of directors. So number one, I have to learn my presentation. So it's two things I look at, and this is kind of tie into this topic. So when I'm presenting to folks that look like me, it's more about the message that I'm just trying to convey, and I'm good with that. Now, dealing with the board of directors, dealing with quote unquote white folks, however you want to phrase it, when I'm dealing with the board, I literally have to do a lot more research. So now I have to understand exactly everything that's going on, from the branding to the marketing, to understanding the pipeline, to understanding what my team is doing, to understand what I'm doing, to understanding the cash flow.
But
Yes.
RC, how is that different than anybody else? Whether that's a white male that's in your situation or a woman that's in your situation, isn't that the same stuff that any person in your situation as the CEO of your firm would have to do? I mean, that's just the role, right?
Yes, no, yes and no. I say yes, obviously that comes with the territory. No, as in specifically, I have to make sure that everything makes sense specifically, because one of the common factors I've had throughout my life is that RC comes off rough around the edges or aggressive, when honestly it's being passionate.
So let's pause there for a second, because you guys can't see RC in person, okay? And if you saw him, you would see that he's about 6'4" and about 160 pounds. No, I'm kidding. RC, he's built like, he's what, you're 5'8", 5'9", 5'8", 5'9"?
Yeah.
And he's about 2 something now, right?
Yeah, about 205, 210.
Okay. He's built like a fullback. And so if you saw him in person, he's like, oh, damn, this guy is jacked. This guy is thick. Okay. And so in person, he can be frankly, an intimidating figure if you don't know the guy, if he's not smiling. Do your mean mug, RC. That's silly. That's more silly than
but yeah, and then on top of that, I have tattoos all over my body. So the point is, when I'm going into these meetings, I have to be on top of my Q's and P's to a T. And one of the things you don't realize until you're in those positions, and again, just being a minority. So again, you can be a white woman selling to white men. What I'm noticing just in these rooms, you need to know exactly what's going on. And again, you really need to have a good perspective of what's going on and providing value. But what I'm noticing, the difference between me selling to a group of folks that don't look like me versus a group of folks that do look like me is, number one, again, it's the message when I'm talking to folks that look like me. Number two, what I'm noticing in these board meetings, the message can be effective, but they want to know exactly the research. And then when it comes to the research, how's my tone? Do I sound too confident? Do I need to shave my beard? Do I need to wear a long sleeve shirt to cover up my tattoos? Now that I've went through numerous board meetings, I'm good now, but these are some of the things that you have to spend time on, and then you realize, okay, yes.
Why don't you wear that shirt?
Why?
Would you wear that shirt to your board meeting?
Yes, I would. Before my first board meeting, no. Now I'm yes.
Now you would. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But why now?
Because I've shown them a value. The first board meeting was with, and I mean, like, these folks are pretty powerful, so they haven't met me yet, right? So I've went through and partnered up with the CEO of Sigma Connectivity, but with this board, I'm actually reporting to his bosses, and these are the folks that run everything. Again, so with that being said, the first board meeting, I did not know everyone that was a part of the board, so I wanted to make sure the first impression was the best impression.
So I guess, that's part of like the conversation that we were having, which was like, when is it okay to be yourself? And when do you have to compromise how you look, how you talk, hell, what your name is?
And is it a compromise? Do you feel compromised when you make these changes? Or are you just, we're different people in different scenarios?
It's a great question. For me, I think the compromise is something I'm willing to accept. And the reason why I say that, because it's big picture for me. I'm in a position that long as my company continue to grow and I continue to think forward, I'll be in a position that I can eliminate those judgment that other folks have. Because, so for example, me being the only Black person in the room, I have to make sure that the first impression that folks may have of me, or just in general, a Black person that look like me, is that, okay, this is somebody that's willing to put in the work, and I don't see anything but just the work and value that they're putting. So what I'm saying is, you come in being too authentic, hey, I'm going to show my tattoos. I know I'm good at what I'm going to do. But at the end of the day, if folks don't kind of accept that your, I guess, energy and accept the presentation, they're going to kind of eliminate that. So one thing is, and sometimes you have to think the bigger picture. One thing I would say, Lou, Mike, even you, Michelle, you guys challenge me to think bigger picture. I think whenever you're trying to create this road of success, that route is not going to look pretty. It is never going to look pretty. Now, if you're thinking, hey, I need to be authentic, people are going to love me, take it or leave me, take it or leave it, I don't think you're going to hit that level of success. You have to be willing to say, hey, what's the big picture? What's my why? How do I get there? Now, once you figure out how you get there, now you need to figure out, okay, how much of myself do I transition or translate into the success or the route I'm trying to get? Now, go back to your question, Michelle, with me, I'm fine. So one of the things, again, what I do is, so the first day when I meet folks, I might shave my beard, or I might wear a shirt that's a little more acceptable, or just the I guess the attire. Now, once I break that barrier and you say, hey, this is RC, I enjoy what he do, and he brings a great mindset to me, or great value to what we're trying to do, then we can move forward. But again, my initial thing is, yes, unfortunately, as a Black person, I think it's very difficult for you to be authentic 100% of the time, especially when it's the first time meeting someone. So now inside these board meetings, or when I mentor, when I speak to folks, I kind of say, hey, unfortunately, you do have to compromise a little bit of the visual presentation. And once they understand the value that you're adding, then you kind of move forward. And it's unfortunate, but it's just reality. And that's one of the things I accept about the world.
Tanya, you've had your hand up here. I'm not sure if you actually had a point or a question.
You know, it was, I did have a question. I can't remember what it was now. So, oh, I know what my question was. I just was wondering if, it was a little bit off topic here now, but it was about whether or not you were encouraged by your family to embrace your ethnicity and your culture, and if that made a difference in what you wanted to like share, I guess, and what you want to call yourself.
For me personally?
Yeah, for you personally, and just for any of you, like, do you think that makes a difference? Because I know for me, my mom was, because I'm first generation American, I know my mom was very, she wanted us to be American and to speak English, and you know.
Yeah.
I
don't know that I was discouraged about my culture, but it was a very different time. I mean, growing up in the 70s, frankly, getting called chink, gook, flackface,
right.
All those things regularly was just common.
Right.
The stereotypes of Asian men on TV were either you were a kung fu guy or delivery guy or some emasculated version of a man. And even today, I challenge people all the time, name one Asian American lead actor that doesn't speak with an accent. Asian American lead actor that doesn't speak with an accent.
That one girl, she's so funny.
No, male.
Oh, male. Okay, male. No.
Name one Asian American male without Googling right now. Anybody? Okay.
That doesn't speak with an accent? Is that what you said?
Asian American male. Asian American male.
Oh, I don't know. Is Stephen Yun, is he American?
Yes, he is.
That's what I was thinking of him.
Yes, he is.
Nice work.
Yep,
I don't know who that is. I can't see you, but.
Oh, I'm right here. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm
Rhonda?
yeah, I'm right here.
Rhonda.
I don't look great today, so I.
Good job, Rhonda.
I didn't want to have to show my face, but.
But it's
great.
He is one of very few.
Yeah.
I would say that very few people. Daniel Day Kim is another. He's been on Hawaii 5-0. He's been on Lost. He's been raised in America.
Yep.
I think he might have been born in Hawaii. But honestly, there just aren't a lot, and it's the way that we're perceived. Benjamin, I think you've been waving for a little bit.
Yeah. So Louis, are you Jewish or? Because I'm Jewish. I'd say hi about that. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi. You know what I mean about the whole Jewish thing, No,
my given name, my given Korean name is Jushin.
Yeah. Was
Okay.
was it referencing Judaism?
No, it's just a reference to my given Korean name. I think
I thought you were talking about like Judaism, like you didn't want to be referenced as a Jew or something.
No, it has nothing to do with religion. It was just.
Sorry.
It's just not an anglicized.
I'm not even talking right now. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
I misunderstand it. I don't know. Sometimes these conversations kind of get me to.
It's okay. So I think somebody made a comment earlier in the chat. I don't know. So like I said earlier, it's something that was not as acceptable. I think today there's a lot more Asian American pride. There's a lot more Asian pride. The idea of people going to a Vietnamese restaurant or a Korean restaurant, Korean all you can eat barbecue is like now a big thing. Now what do you got? We have Squid Game that's become huge. BTS. My one of my sons look like he's in BTS. And it's just a very different time. And I think in today's world, it's much ethnic names, given names are much more accepted, if not widely accepted. But in the days that I grew up in the 70s, taking Korean food or any type of food, even to a picnic, was like, what the hell is that? Why do you have a different fridge? What is in that fridge? Oh my God, that stinks. There was, and I think just, it was a different time. Kyle, you had your hand up. Kyle?
Yeah, I think it's definitely evolving for sure. I was just agreeing to the I would call you by whatever you'd want to be called. And I don't know if maybe just where I was born and raised was ahead of my time, but we had and my neighborhood was also predominantly white, but any minorities that ever were ended up coming to my neighborhood, they were I mean, I personally accepted them as anybody else. And if, like, for instance, this one kid, Pablo, his name was Juan Pablo, and he didn't speak a lick of English beforehand. And I think maybe with his family moving into my neighborhood, perhaps his parents were like, hey, go by Pablo, because they wanted to assimilate. But I mean, anybody that wanted to be called whatever they wanted to be called, I have no problem calling them that. And actually, my dad is Jewish, and my mother raised the three of me and my brother and sister, the three of us. She raised us Roman Catholic. So there was not only a little bit of conflicting ideology going on there, but also like the predominantly Roman Catholic neighborhood that I lived in knew that I was half Jewish. And I probably received just as much, criticism for being a half Jew as anyone that was full Jew at my school. And but to be honest with you, now that I'm older and mature, I think the differences in upbringing in my family made me more rounded in that sense, and that I was more, my very first best friend, I can remember his parents were obviously from the Middle East, but I guess my parents didn't really care. So they let us have play dates or whatever. And he was my best friend. And I think before kids start learning about the differences in races, they have no clue. And the interactions are very natural. But it's like once they start learning about the societal stigmas, then it's like a snowball effect of like, like poison, really, because that just opens the doors for all sorts of like racial dividing and I don't know.
All right, so let's go on to the next slide here. Thanks, Kyle.
Oh, I don't mean to cut you off, but
Go ahead, Jakobi.
we're short on time right now. So if you guys have any, Lewis, Ronald, Mikey, you have any last words you want to leave the audience with, this would be the time to do it.
Michelle, why don't you help us out here then?
Final words, I would say summarize the slide. These are the takeaways.
Yeah, we can spend a couple minutes. It's okay if we go over a little.
Okay, all right. So I think, the number one thing that I thought about when we were thinking about this was, who is your audience and how do they perceive you? And regardless of whether you're the white person in a minority room or the minority in a white room or the male in a all-female room, I think the idea that we can sell the same to every single group just doesn't work. And I think sometimes, that might mean, I don't think so anymore, that might mean, it did mean back in, frankly, in the past, I did it. I don't know that it was wrong or right, but I did it. I went by Lewis. And the way that you talk, the way that you dress, the way that you present yourself, some of those things, I think, and individually, you guys all have to decide what you are willing to compromise and what you're not, and what you're willing to go for. And for RC, for myself, for Michelle, for Mike, for everybody, we've all made those choices, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously or unconsciously. And when we're looking at, I think, selling as a whole, one of the most important things is understanding who the audience is, but not only who your audience is, but how they see you and what their perception is of you. And I think that's one of the things, and obviously we're over on time today, but it's one of the things that I think we don't talk about enough. It's something that RC and I used to talk about a lot, which was, hey, You know, you're the black guy reaching out to Chinese engineers, Russian engineers, to Indian engineers. How are you going to connect with them when the first thing that they see on your LinkedIn message is a black face? Okay, and to not talk about it would be, I think, it's not criminal, but it'd be stupid on our parts to say, okay, you're being seen first as a black man. And so if you're seeing first as a black man, because they don't know you, RC, they don't know your smile, they don't know your background, they don't know anything about you other than your superficial face. And that's how people see us. I think we have to know that there are certain stereotypes that we have to overcome, and figuring out how to overcome them is not easy. But there are definitely ways to do it. Michelle, go ahead.
One final comment, which is, while you might differ from someone on a really important dimension or one that seems really obvious when you're first meeting them, you also probably like exactly the same in a million other metrics. I was thinking of an example of like, if you go into a bar during a football game and everyone's a football fan, and you're a Asian woman who's also a football fan, and there's someone else in the bar who's not a football fan, who's the odd one out? It's the not football fan. Like, we might think that the thing that we're most worried about is what everyone's thinking about, but actually there's like a million different ways to relate with people. A lot of different, more important or differently important dimensions that it is our job or your job or the world's job to try to like suss out. So you can have, everyone's a person. And while you might be at first analyzed as a certain group affiliation, because that might be worn on your skin or on your face or on your gender or whatever, there's a whole other world of ways to connect them. We have some examples here. I'm sure you guys are going to get the presentation later, but I think that is my final word on the topic.
I didn't realize that we went through an hour that quick.
No, right? Yeah, that just went right by. I was going to say too, Jasmine had a really good idea there in the chat. How do you guys feel about doing a round 2 on this?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
I want to set it up. Okay, so I'm going to connect with you guys afterwards. Awesome. Okay. Yeah.
All
So
right,
any other thoughts to? Yeah.
Marcia had her hand up real fast, if it's quick.
Actually, no, thank you. That was amazing, but that's Louis, that's reality. I was thinking in my Wonderland world, they idealistically is just to be ourselves. I got your point. It's like social media, right? We never place the ugly picture. So that's the same thing that I got your message. Thank you for sharing.
So one last thing I do want to add right before we leave here is, if you are the owner of your company, do you have to be the spokesperson of your company? Okay. I am not the spokesperson of my company. More often than not, people who are selling on behalf of the company do not look like me. Okay. They're white females, because most of the customers that we sell to are older white men.
Right.
Okay. So figure that, so, if you are an entrepreneur starting your own company, okay, if you consider who you're selling to and who is most likely they're most likely to buy from, and if you can afford it, or if you can figure out how to do it, get salespeople who are likely to relate to them. Okay. So anyway, we'll leave it at that for now. Tanya will connect and go.
Such a good work. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. We're definitely connecting. This was such a good workshop. I really want a round 2. I will send everybody who's here today. I'll send you information on the round 2 when we set this up. And thank you so much for this important workshop. Excellent job. The recording of this will be available tomorrow on our YouTube channel.
Right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks
night,
for having me,
everybody.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
And